raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with your hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Here we focus on helping men and those with men in their lives solve some of life's complex challenges through understanding the practices of mindfulness and how they can help. Each episode is in an environment free of judgment and criticism, with a focus on authenticity and inner peace. Let's dig in.
Hello. Welcome back to Men Talking Mindfulness, the podcast where we delve into the art and practice of mindfulness and its impact on mental health and overall well-being. I'm one of your hosts, John McCaskill, coming to you from Colorado Springs, and I'm joined by my co-host, Will Schneider, over there in New York City. In this insightful episode, we're going to dive deep into the fascinating intersection of mindfulness and artificial intelligence, or AI. And we're joined by special guest Mark Montalban, the founder and CEO of MindfulText, a mindfulness-based text message learning platform. Mark's passion for mindfulness developed through challenging life events, fueling his work to revolutionize the way we communicate in the digital world by focusing on mindful and meaningful interactions. With a background in both technology and personal development, Mark is known as a top-rated startup mentor for his entrepreneurial experience in over 40 industries and has advised hundreds of early-stage founders and CEOs globally. During the episode, Mark will share his insights on how cultivating empathy and understanding and communication can positively impact various sectors and how MindfulText encourages genuine connection and fosters personal growth. We will begin with an introduction to mindfulness and AI, providing an overview of their respective roles in our daily lives. Then we're going to delve into the various ways AI can augment mindfulness practices, such as through meditation apps, biofeedback devices, and personalized mental health support. We'll also discuss research on AI-assisted mindfulness interventions and their potential, to enhance overall well-being. That said, we won't shy away from addressing the potential risks and ethical concerns surrounding AI and the integration of AI and mindfulness. And we're going to explore the potential for biases within the AI algorithms and the implications of over-reliance on technology for mental health support. Throughout the discussion, we will share personal anecdotes about our experiences with AI and mindfulness and challenge you, the listener, to consider the potential benefits and pitfalls of AI in the context of mindfulness and inspire you to strike a balance between embracing technology and staying grounded in your own humanity. This enlightening conversation is not only informative, but also encourages listeners to reflect on how to harness the power of AI while remaining mindful of its potential risks. And by the end, you will gain a better understanding of how to navigate the rapidly evolving landscape of AI and mindfulness. Now, the reason my intro was so long, I used AI to write that. And I just thought it was really ironic and funny to have AI write the intro to our episode on AI. But hey, you noticed how it may have been maybe too long, maybe too in-depth, maybe didn't seem authentic, even though we pride ourselves on raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Hey, maybe that was just an anecdote in and of itself. But we used ChatGPT to write that. And now with that all said, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Will Schneider. Brother, great to see you. How are you?
Thank you, John. Great to be here. Thank you, Mark, for joining us today. It's like, well, maybe next time you could say in 300 words, give me an intro or something, right? You know what I mean? Like just add another parameter, right? Just add another variable. Yes. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Again, Mark, thank you for joining us. And such an interesting world we're living in right now with like the infusion of AI into our culture and what it's already doing and how quickly it's growing and behaving and creating results and stuff like that. But maybe it's a time to get away and to unplug from all your emails, from AI, from your social media, from all this digital chaos, and imagine yourself instead in a serene, nature-filled location, releasing from your anxiety and stress and hitting the reset button, rejuvenating your body, your mind, your soul, and having some fun. This could be you if you sign up for our Mindfulness Adventure Retreat that's coming up on May 18th to the 21st on the East Coast in upstate New York. We're going to move, we're going to breathe, we're going to get mindful during this 4-day, 3-night immersive experience that includes a 4-week integration program so you can begin to infuse and integrate the information and wisdom you're going to gain in this retreat into your life so you can have live a more effective and happy and more mindful life. So if you want to learn more about that, you can head to mentalkingmindfulness.com/retreat to book your spot before they're all gone. So again, that's mindtalkingmindfulness.com/retreat. Also, if you want a free mindfulness workbook, you can text mindful. That's text mindful at 33,777. So 33,777, because I really screwed this up last episode. So it's 2 3s and 3 7s. So 33,777. Okay. Right. And lastly, you can subscribe to our YouTube and get notifications of new content. We're constantly putting some snippets out there. Mark, you're going to be on our YouTube, just like all the other guests that we've had recently over the last several weeks. And if you want to join our YouTube, it's youtube.com/@mentalkingmindfulness. So thank you everyone for being here. Let's just jump in. We'll do our nice little grounding practice and get into this enlightening and who knows what's going to happen in this discussion with AI. So we're just going to do 5 breaths, kind of reset. We're going to inhale for 4, exhale out for 4. We're going to do this 5 times. Eyes closed, eyes open, while you're driving, while you're sitting at your desk. It is up to you. Everyone can breathe just like this as I'm going to instruct. So exhale out through your mouth. Let it go all the way out. Feel that hit that bottom. And then take a big inhale through your nose. Keep going. Inhale. And exhale out the mouth. And I'm allow that exhale to be like a cooling wash of relaxation over your mind and your body. Again, inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale out. Push the breath out gently and melt a little bit deeper into this moment. Again, in 4. Out 4. Two more times. Go in for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Out easy. 5, 4, 3. Last one, everybody. Big, robust inhale for 5. Out easy. Good. Just take a notice at the end of that exhale, how you're feeling. Has that changed your state of mind, your state of being, your focus? And that's why we do this breath practice. So not just to ground the show and kind of get us all wrapped up into this little ecosystem of Men Talking Mindfulness, but so you can take this practice with you anywhere, anytime, and feel this focus, feel a new vibe on the inside, just by doing some breathing. So, all right, gentlemen, I think we're here.
Yes, we have arrived.
Yes.
All right. Hey, Mark, as we said, thanks for the grace for those watching and listening. We had a couple of snafus before we hit record today, but Mark is already practicing his mindfulness and his compassion with us as we've had those technical difficulties. But he's also practicing his mindfulness, his grace, his compassion, and patience in that we changed a few of the questions that we had sent him prior to, just so that we can have that authentic discussion, right? So we're going to lay that foundation for you as the audience first. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to define AI. We're going to define mindfulness very broadly, and then get a little background about you, Mark, and MindfulText. Then we're going to discuss the benefits and concerns of AI, again, broadly. And then we're going to come back to the intersection between AI and mindfulness, which incorporates your company, MindfulText. So let's start with that definition of mindfulness. Mindfulness, and this is, you type in mindfulness, you're going to get 100 different definitions, but this is kind of a generic, basic definition for mindfulness. We call it patience, awareness, but the definition, or a general definition, is mindfulness can be defined as the practice of being fully present and engaged in the present moment with a non-judgmental and accepting attitude towards one's thoughts and feelings. And that's key, that non-judgmental piece, because a lot of the time we have that inner narrative that we beat ourselves up for our feelings, physical or emotional. And then AI. For those who are not familiar with that new hot term that's out there, it's really not that new, but it's become very hot in the past few months, specifically with ChatGPT becoming so front of mind. AI stands for artificial intelligence, which refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that would typically require human intelligence to complete. AI involves creating algorithms and computer programs that can mimic human cognitive functions, key there, cognitive functions, such as problem solving, pattern recognition, decision making, and natural language processing, NLP. AI technology includes machine learning, deep learning, NLP, and robotics, among others. And AI can be used in a wide range of applications, such as autonomous vehicles, speech recognition, image and video recognition, medical diagnosis, financial analysis, and customer services, to name a few. Because I guarantee if you're watching this, you've probably used some form of AI recently, whether you knew it or not. So we're going to get very much into that. So now I've defined that, and I said let's lay a foundation. We've laid that foundation. Mark, welcome to the show, brother. Again, thanks for your patience while we went through that long intro. Wow, great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you both for having me on the show, and it's great to talk about this topic that I know that we're all passionate about, and I know that a lot of folks are interested in learning more about this topic. It's for sure going to change things. I don't think we know for sure how much it's going to change, but it's looking like it will very soon.
Indeed. Well, yeah, that all said, we did a brief bio on you, but if you could you tell us a little bit about MindfulText and what inspired you to found MindfulText and merge that personal development and technology?
Yeah, so I actually started practicing mindfulness in 2011 without actually knowing it was mindfulness. I met my wife at that same time, and she had been going to therapy for years through her teenage life. And then, I've heard other listeners on your show, they talk about what it was like before learning mindfulness. Is very much similar to me. I was very reactive. And I remember not being able to capture my thoughts. And when I started developing this skill and started catching my thoughts, I thought this was so revolutionary. Prior to mindfulness, I would be just, like I was mentioning, hyper reactive. I would allow my thoughts and emotions to just guide whatever I was doing at any moment. But without having this foundation of, okay, I can choose positive things to think about. And I remember before I was practicing mindfulness, I started to pay attention, and I recognized that like around 80% of my thoughts or more were actually negative. Like I was constantly judging things and just thinking negatively. And I started to get obsessed with, okay, there are all these thoughts coming into my mind. I should be choosing more positive things to think about. Of course, with the help of my wife, who she learned cognitive behavioral therapy, and so she would definitely be reminding me. It took a couple years actually for me to get to the point of mastering it more. And so I started back then, and it was really accelerated when my father passed away in 2016, and my mom was actually diagnosed with cancer at the same time.
Wow.
And I knew that these practices in mindfulness were beginning to show benefits for people's health and well-being. And, my family was, we were also reactive, and I knew that holding these negative states in our bodies could be contributing towards not really helping our health and well-being. So I started to, after my dad passed away and my mom was going through this transition, I knew that mindfulness would be super helpful for her. So I simply started to text her on a daily basis and check in with her. And I would share breathing practices. I would share just remind her to go on her walks and check in with how her mental state was doing. And she's now on the other side of her diagnosis and is healthy. And
Wow.
she credits me with, helping her practice mindfulness and be more positive and think positively. And she believes that this has helped her, along with the advice from doctors, of course, to get to a more healthy state.
Amazing.
So that was around 2018 when she started to get healthy. And at the same time, I had been working for a startup accelerator called Founder Institute for quite some time. I worked there from 2013 to 2020. And so through that experience, I learned a lot of things from a lot of different entrepreneurs. The founder of Udemy, for example, the founders of Udemy went through Founder Institute. And so there are many other startups that went through Founder Institute. I was able to understand how to take an idea and turn it into something that can grow and that is, has the right foundation. And so having texted my mom and seeing the positive behavior change from this skill and tool called mindfulness that I really started to love, I was thinking, how can we test this out further? So I just started texting more folks mindfulness practices. And in 2020, we actually integrated with a mindfulness program at Nova Southeastern University in Florida. And we integrated our content, our mindfulness texting content, into a mindfulness program for teachers, students, and staff. And the preliminary results were quite great. We were able to significantly reduce stress, reduce mind wandering, and COVID-19 related stress. And these were preliminary results. It's not yet published, but this was a good signal for me that there's something powerful here, that within texting specifically, and the growth of text message learning is continuing to expand. And so I was like, let's focus on something that I'm passionate about. One thing I learned at the Founder Institute is that it's very important to be passionate about what you're working on, because it can be like 5 to 10 years you're working on a project. And the example that comes to my head that's a bad example, there was this guy I remember at Founder Institute. He was married, but he was building a dating app. And so it's kind of like, it's like you're kind of separating what you're showing, what you're passionate about, but maybe it doesn't really align fully with your being, perhaps. But maybe there was something there that could have been done. But that's one example of how you can hyper align with what you're passionate about and your external environment. And since then we have been testing this idea further, and that's where we are.
Love it. Yeah. And that's Will, if you want to shift Mark, that's awesome. I love what you've done with MindfulText. We may have to have some discussions offline how we may be able to work together in some way, some form or fashion. But that aside, Will, I know we want to shift into the AI and mindfulness kind of broadly. If you want to take over with some questions and comments, discussion points.
Well, I think, I've been consuming a lot of AI, blogs and content and podcasts, and, there is a lot of concern out there. And I was actually just listening to a podcast with the CEO of, his name is Sam Altman from OpenAI, which is the developer of ChatGPT. And it was interesting to hear him talk about, development of AI. And I was really kind of shocked, they don't know a lot of what's going to happen next, which I was like, wow, that's pretty fascinating. And one thing I want to quote, this is Sam Altman, CEO of AI, said, ChatGPT is deeply imperfect. And this is a quote, ChatGPT is deeply imperfect and is learning and developing in real time with the help of human input. So why don't we just kind of talk about AI? I think one of my big concerns is, having AI take over like Terminator and, just starts to destroy humans and stuff like that, and it sounds like a ridiculous concern, but I'm sure it is some concern. But you brought up a really important word that I heard a lot as I was reading and listening to different content on AI, and the word alignment, and how alignment they're trying to use, or the word alignment in this AI space is all about aligning with human values. So could we just start there? I think that might be a good way, start there as far as what you know so far, what you're seeing, what is exciting you, what is like making you like kind of like worry in some way, if that's the case. So yeah, tell us your vibe on AI right now, and the alignment that it's creating, and the impact it's having on humanity right now.
Yeah, let's think about that. So one thing I want to cover just before that, to just add to the definition of AI.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to a few technical people about AI, and they like to mention to me that what is out right now isn't actually AI. And so upon researching this further, there's actually another definition of AI under AI, and it's narrow AI and general AI.
Yeah,
And just to define that for the audience, general AI is what you typically see in sci-fi movies like The Matrix or Star Wars with C-3PO, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like it encompasses a lot of different focuses. Narrow AI is part of the definition that John was mentioning earlier, where it's applied to specific categories. For example, we've been all exposed to AI through Netflix and Facebook, for example. It's one of the earlier formed, AI has been around for, I think, the 50s, like elementary versions of that. And it's simply, without diving into the very technical, very technical things that can happen here. It's like a bunch of if and then statements that were put together to just generate responses or output that can be seen as human-like. So narrow AI, examples of narrow AI is like the social media feed where it's ranked based. And when you search on Google, they have this thing called Rank Brain, where I believe it's called Rank Brain, but it's how it analyzes your search query and comes up with the right, list of websites for you to look at. Tesla's AI driving technology, that's another form of narrow AI, computer vision type things where it looks at through the cameras and analyzes what's a stoplight and all that kind of stuff. What's interesting is how these different types of narrow AI are coming together, and DALL-E is the image generation technology is a form of two different types of narrow AI coming together. And with general AI, it's like all these different types of AI coming together to make something like C-3PO, for example.
Right.
So with DALL-E, what comes together is the natural language processing along with computer vision AI. So then it's able to take the natural language processing of just words and a lot of data on what images look like to then be able to output really awesome AI made images. So I just wanted to mention that as like, we're not at the point where it's like we should be super fearful about AI taking over. Although I did research online about how far away general AI is, and some folks are predicting it's going to be here by next year, 2025. I think that's definitely possible, but at the moment, it's all about narrow AI and how specifically within right now, everybody's thinking about NLP, natural language processing, and how text-based AI is impacting a lot of things. There are, of course, a lot of ways that it can be applied positively with, disease research, which I think is going to make a huge impact, positive impact on helping folks. sort of rambled on a little bit there about the definition. Could you
No,
rephrase?
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Like, they talked about, even, there's one podcast I was listening to. They're like, is ChatGPT AGI? They're not even sure at this point if it's actually a general AI. And I think one thing that I just understood as distinction of general AI is it's actually, it can interface anywhere. It has it can pull input, and it can, from you, or pull input from the environment, and then actually kind of converse with human beings. Whereas narrow AI, I think it could also be considered like directive AI. So you input data, you give them variables like ChatGPT. Hey, can you write me an essay, or, a blog post, in whatever variables you add, then it just kind of cranks it out. Whereas the next level, and this is where it can get very interesting, is this general AI, where it's actually in the world and with us in the world. Granted, it's in a computer, but it can start making, so what is, I don't know where I'm going with that exactly.
It's
but
prompting itself. Then it's,
yes.
Actually, I was watching something earlier today or yesterday about a new, I think it's called Auto GPT. And it's the system where it's prompting itself to create different outputs. And so that's, I think, the direction we're going in terms of getting to general AI for sure.
Yeah.
So let's, delve a little bit deeper into those benefits. You mentioned some really great benefits for healthcare, making healthcare personalized, right? Like Will and I wear these wearables that track, our heart rate variability, our sleep, and everything else. And other folks are putting their data in how they sleep, and all these things that we can wear, right? How is AI going to help there? It's definitely going to help with personalization, but it's also going to help in other places where we, as human beings, are wasting a lot of time and energy doing things that can be done by AI, repetitive functions, stuff like that. The other side of that, that's a benefit. The other side of that is definitely a concern. And we put this out on LinkedIn. Will and I both did, a question to the audience. How do you feel about AI? And my 4 options that I chose were: 1, I love it; 2, it's going to make life easier; 3, it's going to kill jobs; and 4, it scares me. And the overwhelming majority, 41%, chose it scares me. And then the next 2, both at 22%, it will kill jobs and is going to make life easier. So that's the other side, right? It's going to automate a lot of things that we really, as AI gets better and more refined, we could definitely plug AI into that and save us time and energy. But it could also replace people who are doing those jobs and using those jobs as their livelihood to put food on the table, to put a roof over their head. Is it going to end up putting a lot of people out on the street? I think that's the number one good thing, is that it's going to make life easier, but it's also simultaneously potentially going to harm our society that we've built, and is much more fragile than we all think. What are your guys' thoughts on that? And that's not necessarily aimed at Mark, but it's just a discussion between the 3 of us. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, go ahead, Mark. Yeah. Go for it.
I think, these kinds of industrial shifts happen, and I think we're getting an early warning sign now. I do think the types of roles that are going to get impacted are the types of folks that aren't necessarily paying attention to the space, the non-technical type of roles. I was talking to a friend of mine he's an engineer, and he has teams internationally that were doing jobs that are now capably done by ChatGPT. So I already know that it's replacing some, the data entry type stuff that people typically hire internationally for. Those types of roles are being replaced right now. So that's one perspective to share.
Yeah, well,
I think there's also a huge opportunity for creativity as well. I mean, so we might, you know, from what I'm hearing, I haven't really experienced, honestly, like I have. I'm kind of glad I'm on, because I know Mark was savvy enough to try to use ChatGPT to solve our problems prior to the show, which I love. John's been all over ChatGPT. I have not. I've been kind of in this place, and maybe some of the listeners out there could work with this. It's like I almost don't want to use it yet because of the magnificence of it, how it's going to change the way that I'm seeing it with you, John. I'm seeing the way, we're changing things with the show a little bit because of how easy it is. And so it's such less of a time suck to use ChatGPT. And that's kind of the thing here. It's like the freedom the time freedom that this will provide people, if they're in the right space to be able to use this technology, I think is amazing. And what I've been, as a researching, it could become a co-creator, a co-pilot with you as you're, working whatever problems you're trying to solve. Like we just try to solve that problem, to get to the show. And so there's a lot of great opportunity here. And, who's going to be left behind, or is it something, and this is just a general question for everybody listening. It's like, if you're not up with the latest, or you're not in a field that you are able to shift into something, that you can co-create with ChatGPT, then, you could be devastated. If if you are somebody out there that's working, that just does a repetitive job, those jobs have been the chopping block, are continually being on the chopping block for quite a long time. So yeah, it's a fascinating time right now, with this emergence of the technology on so many levels. But
yeah, you gotta stay on top of it, right? And then
be mindful of it, right? I mean, in some ways, be aware.
Yeah, that's one intersection for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the actually, I want to read a couple of the comments from what we got on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, Mark, I think one of them may be from your wife.
For his wife. Oh, yeah, that was on my.
Yeah, great. So I'll
let you
Holly,
read that. Yeah, that's a good one. Go for it.
Yeah, so Cody Hand says, I view it like social media. Without proper boundaries, it can become an addictive, mind-numbing life stealer. With boundaries and mastery, it can be a powerful tool to achieve the human dreams, which I think was an interesting one. Steve Davey, he says, it's never wise to look at the potential for good without also recognizing the inherent bad. And then Donovan Weaver says, John McCaskill, like so many other things, AI is just another tool. What should concern us is who wields it, in what applications, and to achieve what outcomes. Most importantly, who oversees its use, who regulates it, and who has the final say on the concerns above. AI is just another form of intelligence and should be carefully used. It can get sideways quick when not in proper use, just like any other tool or weapon. And Will, I'll let you read Holly's comment.
Oh yeah, or maybe we should. Too bad Mark's not our notes. You can read it in his wife's voice. I'm just kidding. Right? This is from Holly. This is Mark's wife. And I've seen this a lot. I've heard what she's talking about here, and there is some concern because let me just frame this. It's like I feel because of the way that artificial intelligence, like you talked about C-3PO, right? I mean, this is like back in the day in the 70s and 80s, and now what's the Machina? What's the Machina? There's another movie out there.
Machina.
Yep. Yeah. Great movie, right? And it was like, so we're kind of, I feel there's this fear that's kind of built into us from, the influence of these kind of movies in some ways. And what Holly says is from playing around with ChatGPT for a bit now. One of my concerns is how much people are going to believe whatever it spits out without questioning the accuracy. It is a super powerful tool, is the key word, and I think it's essential to learn how to utilize AI to create content and make business more efficient. But it's no secret that ChatGPT blatantly makes things up, right? This is what, coming back to what Sam said, it's imperfect, right? Blatantly makes things up. So you really need So you really need to take what it says with a grain of salt and have a discerning eye and fact check as needed. Ultimately, you as the prompter, all right, and you're a prompter in the sense of like you give it the variables in order to get what you want, are responsible for putting that content out there. So you are responsible for ensuring it's truthful and not just something chat GPT fabricated. It's good at sounding credible, which makes it easy to buy in whatever it says. So that's like kind of the ethical as well as, this. Yeah, go ahead, John.
I love that she said that because I was just curious what ChatGPT would say about our podcast. So I typed in, hey, tell me about the Men Talking Mindfulness podcast. And it says, get this, it says Men Talking Mindfulness is a podcast hosted by Vince Horn, who is a meditation teacher and author. And then I said, whoa, that's not correct. And ChatGPT says, I apologize for the confusion. You are correct. Men Talking Mindfulness is a podcast hosted by retired Navy SEAL Bo Whitman.
See? What the fuck?
So perfect examples of it just putting out some random stuff that's not accurate, but hey, it sounds really convincing. It sounds really convincing. Oh, man. So I love
another example of that.
Yeah, please.
As well. I was putting together research in the mindfulness space, and I asked ChatGPT, this was a few weeks ago, and I asked it for evidence supporting certain things in the mindfulness space. And I remember specifically, it started to blurt out links to Harvard and all these other great research institutions and educational institutions, but it made up fake headlines and URLs to like fake publications. And so it was like creating all these fake mindfulness research journal articles and making up the titles and the links out to them. So there's definitely, people definitely need to be, they need to edit and be the editor of the content that comes in.
Fact check.
Yeah. Well, let's just talk about the ethics of it then. Like we talked about alignment earlier. And what are your thoughts or what are you hearing out there, Mark, about like the ethics of that's being built into ChatGPT? I mean, could something like that be built into the source code where there is it's a programmed alignment to help have a healthier society, to help mankind, achieve, more health and well-being in their lives or greater success without like fucking over somebody else? Like, is there a way to do that? And have you seen anything like that? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so from a narrow AI perspective, it's certainly possible to leverage the ChatGPT API, for example, and have it be trained on being very, very empathetic to each question, where it mentions it is very nice in the beginning and is very cordial, for example. So it's very possible to do that, and there are there are institutions that are working on many. There are 8 or so that ChatGPT popped out, and I verified to check if those organizations actually exist, by the way. But open
more
AI,
misinformation brought to you by ChatGPT. We're sorry, Mark. Wow, what kind of world are we entering now? So sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no worries. OpenAI, of course, they mentioned publicly that they're a public benefit. Well, not technically a public benefit. There is something called a public benefit corporation. They're not technically that, but they do mention that they are, this is for the benefit of humanity. There is an institution called the Center for Humane Technology. They're very outspoken about these types of ethical issues. I don't remember the name of the founder. I think his name is Tristan Harris. He was the guy that started speaking about Facebook's algorithms and how it was negatively impacting the mental health of folks. So there are certainly organizations that are doing a great job with voicing the concerns. It's hard to tell how much voicing needs to happen. I definitely think that it needs to be known for policymakers and society so that these decisions can be made together. It's up to us and policymakers and the developers to come together and to make these tools more positive. And that's another reason why I think mindfulness is actually very much needed in this process of building AI, to help decrease these biases and make sure that we're thinking about every single possible negative impact, because at scale there can be unintended outcomes. Like think about bugs. Like bugs happen all the time. It's almost guaranteed that bugs happen on every single platform. With AI, if it gets rolled out to like 8 billion people and a bug happens, that's going to it could impact hundreds of millions of people just from a tiny little bug. And I asked ChatGPT about potential bugs that could happen, and if it were, for example, to be applied to the judicial system, it could potentially just inaccurately put a bunch of people in jail if it were to be just manually or automatically applied in that way. So there are definitely some ways that it could negatively impact folks. But mentioning what the CEO of OpenAI mentioned is important here. Sam Altman, he's advocating for these tools to get shared now earlier, so that as a society we can flag things and call things out, which seems to be happening. Those headlines of AI hallucinating and going off the rails, that's I'm glad we're becoming aware of that, and folks are starting to understand how this can impact them.
Yeah, man, that judicial system anecdote, that could definitely be scary. And some other kind of similar anecdotes. What if it gets involved in elections, right? And then we've like the past two major elections, we've heard about the elections being rigged already. But if AI gets involved, who knows what could happen. And then the news, right? So much of the news is reported by human beings, but I'm sure AI is going to get involved if it's not already. And we're actually going to do a show on mindfulness and the news in the coming weeks and months. And it's who knows? It could affect the news and ultimately affect policies and society as a whole, inadvertently even. Potentially. So it's pretty wild. Sorry, Will,
it's so powerful already. No, not at all, John. It's so powerful already. So, in research for the show, there is a podcast out there fully generated by AI called, Podcast AI or AI Podcast. It's one of those two. But they had taken the voice of Oprah Winfrey, and she was talking for like 12 minutes about how she manages her stress, and it was absolute all bullshit. I'm not bullshit in the sense of managing stress, but it was not Oprah Winfrey. You know what I mean? Like doing this, but it sounded exactly like her. If you know Oprah even a little bit, it was like, I don't know if she'd talk like that exactly, but you know what I mean? It was like, but still in the voice of Oprah Winfrey. And it's like,
this whole podcast that we're on right now, this is not actually John and Will, just so you know. And Mark is also
exactly. You can't say that, John, because ChatGPT is going to go out there and be like, men talking mindfulness completely, AI generated. It's scary, right? When is it going to get to a point where, is it real people we're going to see on the news? Is it going to be everybody picture and video that we see on our social media feeds? Is that a real person? And what are your thoughts on that, Mark? Is that going off the rails? Is there, just like we had a constitutional convention, back in the day, do we need like a intervention or a kind of a pause in the world to be like, to really start having these discussions about this is impacting, schools, everything. Like no one needs to write a report anymore. It's like, it just has such a profound impact on humanity. And it's like, and your thoughts, Mark, please.
Yeah, I do have a lot of faith in general on our collective ability to call these things out. Like even our conversation right now, we're educating a lot of folks about the potential negative impacts. And I do think that overall there can be way more positive impacts in AI. And there's a gentleman called Peter Diamandis who talks a lot about how we've had more abundance now more than ever in the past. And so, there's some caveats to this, and of course, some negative ways to think about it. But there's a lot more positive things happening today than many decades ago. And so I think it's going to be similar to that, where, we can think of all the negative potential impacts, but I have faith that as a society, we are going to, with some hiccups and bumps in the road, of course,
Right.
will likely happen. We're going to generally be positively improving this technology over time.
Yeah. I mean, I was very encouraged when listening to the CEO of, and this is on the Lex Friedman podcast. It was really good. He was talking about one thing I didn't realize about OpenAI is a non-for-profit organization, which I thought was really cool. And then they kind of changed the way that they organize, where I have here, it's OpenAI is a non-for-profit company and is protected by making decisions, from making decisions that are not in the interest of their holders, which I thought was great. So it's not like a for-profit, like you must make profit this quarter or else we're going to shut you down or whatever. So I think that was very comforting. And here's another quote from here from Sam Altman. He says, "The increase in the quality of life that AI can deliver is extraordinary. We can make the world amazing. We can make people's lives amazing. We can cure disease, increase material wealth, help people be happier, more fulfilled, all sorts of things," says Sam Altman from OpenAI.
Well, let's talk about the
Sure.
mindfulness and AI intersection. We've touched on it, right? And we talked about MindfulText, and we're going to get a little bit into that here in a second. But in the context of that intersection between AI and mindfulness, what are your guys' thoughts on best practices that you would recommend for individuals looking to improve their digital communication skills? I'll kick that over to Mark.
Yeah. Well, so for me, starting that process was about paying attention to my thoughts. And I know for some, it was for me, it was a difficult process to I remember it took me like 2 years to try and capture a thought. I would feel a thought or sense a thought, but it would just be fleeting. And I remember just pre-mindfulness, it was very difficult process to try and think about my thoughts. And so, like, as a first base level for folks that aren't too versed in the mindfulness space, one great practice to do that initially to understand your communication skills is just to absorb all the thoughts that you are starting to think. And because, these types of thoughts that we're constantly thinking, they can impact how we are feeling and how we react. And so by understanding our habitual patterns that are coming into our mind, we can better understand ourselves and better create a responding format that we can, better choose to respond positively, of course, if you can in the moment. So that would be one practice that I recommend, to just start paying attention to your thoughts and go from there if you're just starting out in your mindfulness practice.
I think it's mindfulness is more important than ever because we're more mindful about, if this is going to help us co-create, right? And it's a tool, not a creature, right? It's just a tool for us. It's like, but if we're more mindful about our thoughts, our feelings, our patterns of behavior, the way that we are in the world, and also mindfulness helps us to get deeper into what really makes us human is not our mind. I mean, it's a great tool. The tool is a great mind as well. It's interesting. Like I've heard so many people, when we try to just detach ourselves from our thinking because it's just a tool. We want to use this mind just like ChatGPT is a tool. But what really makes us human, really makes us connect with other humans is what's going on in our heart, what's going on in the rest of our body and our organs. And just by getting more mindful, taking on the practices of mindfulness, particularly meditation, hopefully it'll allow us to co-create with this incredible power of AI more effectively, and not just for our own selfish pursuit of wealth and happiness and, just gathering more stuff in this consumer, society, but how can we use our creativity, right? That comes, and I access more of my creativity, more of my creativity all the time by meditating and breathing and continually developing and fostering more mindfulness practices, because it really just lights up my entire humanity. And to co-create effectively with this AI, I think it really, like what Sam is talking about, it can be extraordinary and create an incredibly powerful and more healthy and more wealthy world. But I think this is a great time for mindfulness for anybody and everybody to become more mindful, because we need to start, as we're talking about here, we need to check ourselves with this ChatGPT. It's like, are we going to just blindly just say whatever the AI says? Or are we going to be like, wait, that doesn't really sit well with me. Maybe we should go back and give us more prompts. Those are kind of my thoughts on it. So.
And what I liked about what Mark mentioned earlier, the fact that we're putting it out there, the fact that we have a show like right now on this very topic, the fact that ChatGPT and the CEO of OpenAI is out there basically putting out his MVP, or they were putting out their MVP, and we as society are looking at it and being like, hey, we can tweak this, we can tweak that, we need to get control of it. I think in a kind of a weird way, we as a society are being mindful about AI. We're being aware, right? We don't want it to get out of control, and we don't want people to use it in nefarious ways. We don't want people to use it in lazy ways. We don't want people to use it for, I don't know, you name it. But bottom line, I think in a kind of weird backwards way, when you really peel back the word mindfulness and you see what we are doing right now, I think we are being mindful about it. It's pretty encouraging to see. We're not just letting it run rampant and get out of control yet, right? We don't. What is it? Skynet has become self-aware. We don't want to get to that point for sure. But actually,
Terminator reference, right? Is that right? Terminator reference,
Skynet.
Skynet.
Yeah, Skynet and Cyberdyne, I think. But yeah, I'm showing my nerdiness. Hang on, let me put some tape on my glasses. But
Okay, Sean, you're around a bunch of nerds. Mark, I'm calling you a nerd too. You're in the little nerd group here, right? Nerds win. I'm just kidding.
That's right. Nerds rule. Nerds rule. Oh man, I digress. So let's come back to to Mark. Sorry, man. Me and Will got on a little tangent there. So for you, with MindfulText and everything that you talked about before and what it's doing, is there AI built into that?
Technically, no, but I can share some examples of how we are leveraging AI. So,
yeah.
I mean, it could be thought of that everybody today is basically can leverage ChatGPT to AI infuse their projects. And so in some sense, everybody has an MVP version of an AI product that is enabling their non-AI processes or software. So I definitely, I think that's where a lot of the power is coming from to enable folks, is that leveraging this tool basically gives you an AI type of ability to grow things further. I'll give you an example. So at MindfulText, we've been texting folks mindfulness content for a few years now. And so we've got a library of texting content. And so recently we did a pilot with Auburn University wheelchair basketball team. And we were texting the whole team and a couple staff throughout their whole basketball season. And what we did was we leveraged ChatGPT to repurpose our existing content specifically for a sports audience. And that would have taken me probably weeks to do on my own. But with the help of ChatGPT, I asked it to basically retain our same voice, but have it be specific to and make it inclusive to the wheelchair basketball team, right? Because
Sure.
we don't want to, we didn't want folks to, we didn't want our text messaging to like tell folks to go walk outside, for example.
Sure.
So yeah, it's definitely augmenting how we are creating content, and that's probably the biggest area where it's really sped up our development. We can take our existing content and basically apply it to a bunch of different areas. One area that we're exploring that now is through the caregiving space, and we've been building a team in this space within healthcare. And it can be applied in the corporate space as well. There's a growing need to support employee caregivers. You know, with the growing boomer generation, there is a lot. Basically, everybody is going to be a caregiver at some point. You know, so it's a growing area that I'm seeing mindfulness can be applied. It can be a very stressful experience to take care of folks. You know, like I don't know. I went through it with my mom, and as my dad was going through his transition. So I definitely feel for this area of needing to bring mindfulness specifically to this area of care. So where I see the future of this going is, and I've been speaking with a few mindfulness communities, and there's a consensus coming out where mindfulness specific interventions and applications are just going to continue to expand. There's like mindfulness is going to can be applied to many different areas. For example, just for improving focus, it's obviously been widely researched for stress reduction. But it can be applied specifically to therapy, it can be applied specifically to basketball and sports. It's definitely had exposure to, of course, but all these different areas, it can be fine-tuned and hyper-personalized going into the future. So that's where I think some exciting advancements can go with mindfulness.
Yeah, well, you know, talking about being mindful, and we've in the very early episodes of the show, I think when we were still just on Instagram Live, we did a couple of episodes on digital detox, or being mindful of your interaction with your digital media. What advice do you have for people who want to cultivate more empathy and understanding in their everyday digital interactions?
The thought that comes to mind, it may not be 100% related, but one thought that comes to mind is how I've leveraged EEG technology. Electroencephalography. I don't know have you guys used the Muse headband? Or any of those tools. That's one thing, you know, if you're looking to, well, I guess you're talking about digital detox. I'm talking about like using another tool, technology.
Well, I mean, I'm not exclusively talking about digital detox, but how do we have that empathy in our digital interactions? I mean, it's very easy. Let's say, for example, if I go on Facebook, right, and I see a comment by somebody that I have no idea who they are, what their life is like, and I see a comment that I disagree with, it's very easy in this day and age to jump on that comment and attack the commenter, right? And almost become a troll ourselves, or maybe we're defending ourselves against a troll. How would you recommend that we become more empathetic in that digital space, whether it is using our phone, whether it's using EEG, or whatever it is? How can people become more empathetic?
Totally. So I'm thinking now about some like how it could be applied in even a clinical type of landscape. And specifically, loving kindness meditations have been researched, and just creating a specific program just with loving kindness meditations where perhaps it's done every day. I think there's a very strong potential for these different types of meditations with different focuses. There's the focus tension meditation, and that has been proven to help improve people's focus. Loving kindness meditation, I believe, I don't have any studies top of mind to help support this claim, but I do think that just practicing loving kindness through that format of guided meditation can be very helpful to, help people open their minds to what empathy can feel like. These things aren't taught in school, so I think it can be hard for folks that haven't thought about it at all. For me specifically, I didn't think about it till I was around the college time, and it took me a while to just grasp things. So yeah, one practice I think would be specifically doing a loving kindness meditation. And, some thoughts are coming into my mind about how that's just like, if as a dude, if you hear about, I remember laughing at the idea of meditation when I first heard about it. Right?
Me too.
And so even loving kindness meditation, I think of that. I think of my old self thinking about loving kindness meditation.
Yep.
It's like, why would I ever do a loving kindness meditation?
Like even
so
that
I think
term back then, I'd be like, loving kindness. What is that?
That's like, how much of a wimp do you want me to be? Loving and kindness? Like, oh my God. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, yeah, that is totally how I felt about it. And I think there are ways to rebrand these opportunities to rebrand these types of ideas. And, I was speaking to one of the heads of, I forget his name actually, but he was a leader at a hospital. And I was talking to him about it was the Johns Hopkins Hospital. So I was talking to him about how his team talks about mindfulness within his hospital system. And they actually changed the phrasing of mindfulness for different subcultures. And he specifically mentioned 4 different subcultures of how they talk about mindfulness, because they know that for some folks it can be triggering from like a religious perspective. So there are definitely opportunities to expose people to these things in ways that are more inclusive.
I'll jump in there for a second to talk about empathy. Like 3 words that have really helped me to change my relationship to myself and others as I move through this C-Cares course, Cultivating the Heart. Now I'm in the Applied Compassion training, is 3 words: just like me. So when you're out there, judging somebody else or thinking you're better than somebody else, it's like there's so much more commonality between you and that person than there are differences. And I'm sure, like, if you're going to lambaste somebody for a mistake that they made or, judge them for some reason, what's helped me kind of prevent that judgment and all those feelings and all like the cycles of thinking and all the bad behavior, maybe more words that'll kind of come out of my mouth, is just like me. It's like, oh, that guy or this person just did that. Just like I've done that same thing in the past. And that's helped me just develop more compassion for other people, more self-compassion, realize that I am, and I know I'm a flawed human being, but sometimes I don't want to realize that I'm a flawed human being, especially when I'm trying to hold a higher moral standard than somebody else. Where it's just like, oh my God, I definitely have my moments, and way too often sometimes, or more moments of me not being sometimes the best person I can. And also another thing I'll say, as far as like commenting and social media, it's like, if you're not going to say it to somebody's face, then don't put it online. If you don't have the balls to say, you know what I mean? Like whatever you're going to say in a chat, like, then you shouldn't say it. Like, you ever see that? I love those memes, or I saw some videos of 2 dogs like barking at each other behind a glass door, right? The glass door is dividing them. They're like, rah, 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 rah. Then you open a glass door, they act like nothing happened. Just like, oh, hey, what's up? What's going on over here? How you doing? Close the door again, and dogs are rah, 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 rah. And it was, I think the title was like, what online looks like. And it's so true. It's so true. And, I think that's, it's something to be mindful of. It's like we all have our flaws, and just recognizing, just like me, can really be helpful in the sense of, instead of making that comment, realize like, oh, I've been that person before. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Another tip that comes to mind is, how specifically conversing digitally versus over the phone versus over Zoom versus in person are super different. Like
Sure.
there are some folks that, particularly the younger generations, they prefer to communicate specifically over text. But, if you really think about it, it's hard to get the entire context out of a text message. And something funny comes to mind with a Key and Peele skit where they're like talking over text. I don't know if anybody saw this, but one guy is texting somebody and texting the other guy, and one guy is taking it like completely opposite from a text message, and they're like miscommunicating back and forth through text message. And in terms of this digital communication, I recommend folks, push themselves to go for the phone call or go for the Zoom call or meet in person, as opposed to just communicating over a digital format, because a lot of miscommunication can happen over a digital communication.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, intonation gets lost, grammar gets lost. All our body language, our facial expressions, is lost. It's that true lost in translation, right? That lost. Like what is lost there, and then what's the ramifications of that lost communication? Like you could ruin relationships over that versus having a phone call or a video chat or an in-person actual conversation to one another. It's definitely important to increasing that empathy that we talked about, is having those conversations as much as you can in person, or at least seeing the other person or hearing them. Definitely adds layers of empathy and understanding, and humanity, right? When you get those texts, you read them in your own voice in your head, and you not only read them in your own voice in your head, but you're putting your own intonation on that conversation, your own spin on it. Even though it's spelled out clearly, it's not always interpreted clearly. So it can be pretty dangerous. So for those who are watching who use text almost exclusively for conversation or communication, we definitely encourage you finding other ways and branching out. But that said, so you've got, like you're talking about text and how it can be lost in communication. What about mindful text? I mean, we're almost sound like we're speaking out of both sides of our mouth here, Mark. What are your thoughts on that?
So the text message channel I find very interesting, right? Like, of course, there's a balance. Like, I'm not advocating that everybody only communicate through text message. It's definitely a channel that can be leveraged by folks. And what's interesting is how it's a very personal channel. People typically, at least in the United States, they reserve their texting channel as a very personal communication channel. So what I've found texting folks mindfulness practices is that we can more quickly build a personal relationship with folks through this channel, and it becomes a higher priority. So there are things called like Zoom fatigue and app fatigue. So it's addressing that as well. There's something like a 30% retention rate over 3 months for apps in general. So, if you download an app, you'll soon find that it doesn't stay on your homepage, but the text message app typically stays on everybody's homepage. So it's a channel that helps folks prioritize the content that comes through it. And so my thought was, how about we help deliver a hyper positive skill and attitude and learning process, mindfulness, through this channel. And so far there are some good things that we're seeing from that, and it's definitely something worth exploring further to go into. It also, it makes it more accessible to folks, the text message channel. You don't have to download a new app. It's already baked in with voice-to-text capabilities, so it makes it uniquely accessible for even older generations. They don't have to get used to this new app format.
Gotcha.
It can also be more cost-effective than building your own app. You can deliver content through text message, for example. It also makes it easy to personalize the interaction with, just texting with folks. That helps build the personalization aspect of delivering content through text message. So, there are definitely things going for the text message channel. Another thing that comes to mind is how if you're solely building a community, for example, on social media, these social media sites, they can just instantly change how things are done. There have been many startups that have built on top of the Facebook algorithm, the Facebook advertising system, and they change one thing, and all of a sudden your business is gone because they just take away access. But when you're communicating through text message, you own somebody's phone number, or you have access to somebody's phone number. You can still communicate to them through a different phone or another app. So you have more control over your community by leveraging the text message channel. Just to add some benefits to the texting, since we were talking a little bit about it.
Right on, man. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah.
I know you got something.
No. I one thing, like, as far as you're talking about meeting in person and actually physically being in the presence of somebody, which helps to understand communication on a very human level. In the theater world and playwright world and the acting world, they'd always say that an ounce of behavior is worth a pound of text. So just to be present with somebody in the same space, right? You pick up so much more information than just by reading text or communicating in some sort of digital way. Do we want to talk a little bit more about AI, or what are we looking at?
Well, I know we've got about 10 minutes, 9 minutes or so till Mark's time is up. So let's start to wrap it up, and just a couple of questions for the audience who may have heard, or not may have, but did hear about MindfulText. How can they sign up for MindfulText, and then if they have questions specifically for you, Mark, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So right now we're in a beta type of existence. And so we are taking in folks through email. You can go to mindfultext.com and enter your email, and we'll essentially reach out if we think there's a fit. And there are ways to contact me. You can also email me at m@mindfultext.com. That's my email. So we're specifically working in a couple different areas. So we don't have any public texting programs people can take at the moment. We have example programs people can take when they reach out to me. But we're specifically helping organizations leverage our existing experience delivering content through the text message channel, helping folks spin up their own programs, and specifically focusing on certain categories. Right now, one of our big focuses is mindfulness-based caregiving for the healthcare space. And we have a great team developing there. I'll just give them a shout out. Dr. Larry Force, who's a gerontologist, he's joined our team and is helping us get out into the world of caregiving, as well as Dr. Kayliz Oakes, who's been in this space as well. So that's a little bit of where we're going and how to contact me.
Love it. Well, let's wrap it up. For those who are watching, thanks for watching. We actually did pre-record this show. I got some things going on Wednesday, but unfortunately we did have to pre-record. But for those who are watching and you have those questions in the text or the comments, we will try our best to get to those, either ourselves, myself and Will, or we'll forward those on to Mark to answer those. But for those who are watching, for those who are listening, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate our audience. And if you feel that anyone could benefit from hearing or watching this show, please share it with them. Please share it with your family, your friends, and anyone else who you think could benefit from this. That said, let's jump into our final grounding practice to get us grounded for the rest of the day, and then we will call it done. So I will lead this grounding practice, this final grounding practice, very similar to one that Will led off with. It's just going to be 5 simple breaths, breathing out for a count of 5 and breathing in for a count of 5, being very mindful of the physical aspects of each breath and any emotions that may bubble up during just this simple breathing exercise. So if you're comfortable and it is safe both physically and emotionally to close your eyes, then I invite you to close your eyes. Otherwise, just listen to the words. Practice the breathing, and let's exhale, emptying our lungs, breathing in for 5, hold at the top and release 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, holding empty at the bottom. That's 1. In for number 2. Holding full at the top and release 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 2. Holding empty at the bottom. Breathing in for number 3. Paying attention to what it is you're feeling physically and emotionally, and holding full at the top. Letting it go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 3. Holding empty at the bottom. Deep breath in for number 4. Holding full at the top. And releasing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding empty at the bottom. And last breath in. Holding full and relax. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. And if your eyes were closed, go ahead and blink them open. Otherwise, just come back into this space in this time and back to your regularly scheduled programming. Hey, thanks, guys. Mark, fantastic conversation. Really appreciate you and your time today. Thank you for what you're doing with MindfulText. I think it's great. I'm going to look into it more, and I don't think this is the last time that we will be talking. And Will, over to you to wrap it up, brother.
No, yeah, thank you for being here, Mark, and thank you everyone for informing the show with your answers to our questions out there in our polls. And this is probably not going to be the last conversation we're going to have around AI, or maybe we'll actually have someday, John. We'll do like an AI bot interview or something like that.
That would be
why
fun.
the hell not, right? I mean, it's probably going to be in the future, very near future, maybe next year. Yeah, this is a fascinating space, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and and help us inform the show more. If there's something out there that you feel is critical to have our audience and put out there in the world, please, John and I would love to hear from you. And everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, Mark, John, always a pleasure. And bye, everybody. Have an awesome day.
Next time. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.